welcome back to the channel. This is like Rambler part the third, and I'm gonna stop calling them parts of Rambler video because there'll just be a lot of them. But so we've cleaned up in the back, rust and grease and crud, and sprayed that with the zinc stuff and the rust protection, turn it into primer kind of stuff, and then also then I've hit it with a gloss metal paint enamel. The primer looks fine as a flat, or the rust zinc coating, but it's going to just collect all the dirt and stuff, and it's not going to wash very well. So I did hit it with the gloss coat, and you come around here and we can check that out. Don't forget to like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, comments, notifications, everything. Check out the Instagram page, go onto our website rustybobs.com. All it's going to tell you is to check out the Instagram page. The Instagram is rustybobs204, and obviously you know where the YouTube channel is because you're watching this video. So under here, that's all been cleaned, rust protected, zinced, and then enamel sprayed. I'm gonna spray these as well, but I'm gonna do that in high heat because the drums will get highly heated. Pro tip number one of the evening: when you're spraying paint on your drum backings, tape off the drums, the shoes themselves, because the paint real slick. It'll take a good amount of breaking to wear that off, and then it's gonna gum up everything inside. But this is all painted up now, so that's good. Sway bar has been painted. That's right here. So that's all bright and shiny now. That's ready to go back in. I ended up doing those. Pro tip number 2, when you want to paint your bolts and your nuts, get yourself a nice box to put everything in so you don't lose it. Poke little holes, put your bolts and nuts through, and then and they're still in the same box and ready to go back on when you need them. And pro tip number 3 is when you're using a box like this, super handy, but then all of the nuts and bolts and washers get tucked underneath that bottom flap, which is really annoying. I put a little bit of tape in there. Now I don't have to worry about losing stuff into there. So those are the 3 pro tips for the night. So I did the driver's side. Actually, this is the passenger side on this particular vehicle. In New Zealand, this would be the driver's side, but we're not going to do the conversion on it because that's just ridiculous in a classic car like this. I pulled it all apart. We're going to go through doing the other side of the vehicle, but I'll show you what it looks like all apart. So this, and I cleaned it and painted it today. So this dealio here, this sits in here. This goes onto the ball joint at the bottom. These 2 bolts, this T-bolt here, threads through these guys here with the nut on each side, and each side has a grease zerk for that. And then this swivels on here, and that's nice and smooth, which is exactly what you want for when you're turning the old wheelio there. And then your spring sits on top here and just rests up in the top there. And when you have this all the way down, these bars here are holding that spring in there, and there's a bit of tension on that. And when I was taking this out, and you'll see it on the other side, once you get to a certain point, she kind of just goes sproing. So you want to make sure that you don't have your face right there when that happens. It doesn't push too hard because it's pretty much relaxed at that point. But when I put the springs back in, I'm going to use the old compressor and squeeze them down so they go in nice and easy. You have to pull the shock goes right in here and up into there. You got to pull that out. You got to loosen off your sway bar here, the sway bar link, so that this will go down far enough. And you will notice that I've got this zip tied up over here just so I don't put too much stress on that guy. That's all been painted, ready to go back together. And just so you know, all of the bearings and the race and everything in this car is just, I don't know if it's been replaced, but it's just pristine. Even the bearings, I pulled them out and it was just all nice and clean in there still. And these front drums have pretty much no wear on them at all. And so that's awesome. The ball joints have been replaced. They're nice and tight. The tie rod ends are nice and tight, but you can see the boot has a split in it. So I've actually ordered new dust covers for that, but I don't have to replace the actual tie rod end itself. So that's good. This has all been cleaned, sprayed, and it's ready to go back together. This is the spring here from the front. So it looks like there, and then it's got a cup that goes on the top and a cup that goes on the bottom. And so they sit on here like this. And that actually works real slick because they've even got these handy installation tabs on there. So you just whoosh, like that, that'll be slick. But these are actually going to go in to the spring shop and get reduced. And I've decided on coming down 1 inch in the back, and I'm going to come down 2 inches in the front. And if I decide that, in fact, that's a bit low in the front, rather than changing the springs, I'm just going to fab a spacer to go in here to get it to the right height. But the car, this car has a body line that goes all the way down it. And you can see here we got 1 inch from the body line to the bottom of the fender flare. And in the back, we've actually got 2 inches. And so from the factory, even though the car is sitting level, it looks like the back is sitting down because that fender comes down a little bit. And that was like a carryover from the fender skirts. So higher end cars like the Thunderbird of that era, we did one, you can check it out on Instagram page, you can see the photos of the 64 Thunderbird we did. Chiquita Banana we called it because it was all yellow, but it had these like black moldy spots on it, so it looked exactly like a banana. Anyways, came out real nice, but it was supposed to have skirts, and Eben, the guy who owns that car, actually found the skirts for it. But so this is a carryover from that. They wanted that back end to look lower, but so I'm going to drop this 1 inch so it'll come up, and the top of the tire will just tuck inside here. In the front, I'm going to drop 2 inches. Car will sit with a bit of a rake, and then the tire and wheel package that I want to put on here is going to have 14s in the front, 15s in the back, so it'll give it a bit more of a rake as well, which gives it that nice kind of squatty muscle car look. So I'm going to get into the other side and check back with you soon. So this is what it looked like before I took the other side apart, and as you can see, you get a nice big gooey grease buildup, and that's on account of the grease zerks on either side to keep that lubed, so that when the wheel turns, you still got, it doesn't bind the spring up there. So these are old school, obviously, wheel bearings. They've got a keeper and a cotter pin here, which will pull off in this little dust cover. You want to make sure that when you put these back on, you whack this as hard as you can so it dents it and makes it look all awful. The inspector really likes that when he knows that this has just been beat to hell, because that means that it's probably done right. I'm going to go ahead and pop this cotter pin out. When I did this on the other side, I totally busted it, so I'm going to have to replace that one. And you don't want to use the old side cutters like I'm doing right now. You want to use like a needle nose or something, because these have a tendency to snip. But my needle nose are somewhere not here right now, so we're using these ones. Just squeeze them back together, and once you start getting it through there, you can tighten them up a little bit. We should do like a whole 45-minute video on how to remove a cotter pin. We could get real pedantic and you know, like one movement at a time. Big explanation. That just keeps the nut from loosening, obviously. And this guy here is not very tight, as you can see. And that's a good thing because it means that this was put on correctly. This is going to be all nice and greasy in here. So we're going to wipe this down as we go. And you can tell this car has just been loved on because, like, look at that. That nut doesn't even have any marring on it or anything. It's just like factory. And then I just throw it into the bin. Got the thrust washer here. And remember that these have a slot in them so that they don't spin with the bearing. So that they don't then walk the nut off. As you can see, the tab goes in the slot. This is just gonna walk right out of here. No, it doesn't want to. There it is. So my suspicions from driving this car were that it was really in good shape, and that has been proven on each corner that I've worked on so far, because everything has just been in like perfect condition. So really this is all just about, like, that bearing that's like brand new. This drum, very slight wear starting right on the edge there. Right here there's just like hardly any wear on there. This will just easily get cleaned up on the mill if you were so inclined, or if the inspector's having a bad day when I take it in and he fails them, I would easily turn those. Lots of meat left on these shoes, no problems there. I'm gonna clean this all up with the wrong product here. This is a degreaser, and I should be using a brake cleaner, but it's pretty much the same stuff. So we'll go ahead and do that. So these 4 bolts here, these 4 nuts, hold all of this together. So the shoe plate comes off, the tie rod end link comes off, and the bottom of the strut mount comes off, all with these 4 bolts. Super easy, fast way to assemble it in the factory, and AMC was known for that. They pioneered a lot of the things that have sped up car manufacturing today. They were the first major manufacturer to use a unibody construction. As you can see, there's a bit of a frame looking rail right here, but that disappears into the floorboard. This is a full shell, full monocoque type of construction, and then it goes back into a kind of a sub-frame section in the back. So super fast for manufacturing. Really bad when the floors rust out because there goes your structural stability, and very difficult then to make a convertible when it's not on the frame. But they did it. This car is in great shape. I'm not foreseeing any issues. I'm going to get into this. Check back with you shortly. We call this paint marker restoration. It's my daughter Gibby. She is redoing the black accents on these hubcaps. This is one of 4 that need to be done. It's a coloring in exercise. You can see how they've started to fade. And then you can see on that one there, that little spot has been done. They just stand out a bit more, and then we'll polish up the aluminum once we're all done with the paint, and it'll look nice. Well, Gibson, you like coloring still?
Yeah.
Look at that. Even did the American flag emblem for all the bald eagles. That'll give it probably another 5 horsepower for sure. Bright, shiny, brand new. Maybe we should go into business just refurbishing hubcaps. No?
No.
Yeah? No? Okay.
No.
We use these paint markers. You can tell they're extra good quality because of the Chinese writing on them. And they say paint and marker. And it marks on anything, and they're oil based. So this is anything, so it should work. Hey, awesome job, Gib. So I got this spring out. The key thing to do this when you don't have a spring compressor, which is basically just a threaded rod with a hook top and bottom, and when you tighten it, the hooks come together, compress it. The problem with using a ratchet strap, you get the ratchet straps on here. That works to compress this, but then you got to release it, and it wants to release it all in a hurry. Boom! So the best thing to do is to make sure that it's not going to hit you in the face, and use a long stick or something to bump it out of there, and it just kind of flops out. So this is what that other side looked like before I cleaned it up and painted it, and it's all still in good shape. It's just got rust from sitting. Like I said in the previous video, this unit was sitting in the guy's shed for like 9 years before I got it. Otherwise, everything is the same as the other side. Ball joint's good. That joint's good. Tie rod end is good. This side the boot wasn't cracked, so it's actually good. And this is the bearing stub axle, or the spline, or whatever you call it. The grease seal runs on here, and that's all in good shape yet. There's no groove or nothing on there. And the main bearing runs here, and then the outer bearing runs here. And that's all in nice shape still. So that'll go straight back together. And yeah, this is how those cups look before you pull them apart. There's a rubber isolator around the top and the bottom for vibration, and then this cup slides in there. So this is the bottom, this is the top here, just like that. So we'll get these now off to the spring shop. We'll go ahead next day or two and clean this side up and paint it, and get her, once the springs are back, I can get the back end back together and the front end back together. Then I've got to do the underbody, and then once that's done, I've got to do the transmission seal. I'll have a video on that coming up, and probably do the valve cover gaskets at the same time. It'll be a whole show about gaskets. How about that? Hey, thanks for watching, and catch you next time.